Open a Bitcoin rich list, and the answer seems obvious. Sort the addresses by balance. Find the largest number. Put a name beside it. And there you have it, the person, company, or government that owns the most Bitcoin in the world. Except that is not what the blockchain actually tells us. The largest address may not represent one economic owner. It might hold Bitcoin attributable to an exchange's customers. It might sit inside an investment trust. Or it might be part of a custody system, where the organization safeguarding the keys is not the party receiving the economic benefit. Bitcoin's ledger is public. The ownership relationships behind it are only partly visible. So the real question is not simply, which address holds the most Bitcoin? The real question is, who benefits from the Bitcoin, who has legal title, who safeguards it, and who can authorize it to move? Those questions are related, but not identical. Separate them, and the idea of a single global Bitcoin rich list begins to fall apart. This is BTCWindow. Today we are asking, who owns most of the world's Bitcoin? To answer honestly, we need 4 layers. First is the economic or beneficial interest, the person or group whose wealth rises or falls with the asset. Second is legal ownership. That may sit with an individual, a company, or a legal vehicle such as a trust. Third is custody, the party responsible for safeguarding the asset. And fourth is key control, the people and systems that can authorize a valid transaction. Sometimes all 4 layers sit with the same person. You buy Bitcoin, hold it in your own wallet, protect the seed phrase, and sign the transaction yourself. Institutions often split those roles apart. An investor can own shares. A trust can own Bitcoin. A custodian can safeguard the keys. And a signing system may require several approvals and procedures before any Bitcoin can move. That is why one giant on-chain balance can appear to be one owner, while representing many separate economic claims. It also explains why address-rich lists mislead. One wallet can generate many addresses. One person can spread Bitcoin across different addresses for privacy, accounting, or security. At the same time, an exchange can aggregate Bitcoin attributable to many customers into a much smaller set of addresses. Blockchain analysts improve this picture through entity clustering, using transaction patterns and known addresses to estimate when multiple addresses may be operated by the same organization or user. That work is useful, but it remains an estimate. A cluster can suggest an operational relationship without proving legal title, beneficial ownership, or the identities behind every balance. So an address is not a person. A wallet is not necessarily one owner, and an exchange-labeled cluster is not automatically the exchange's own Bitcoin. With that framework in place, let us examine the most famous possible answer, Satoshi Nakamoto. Early in Bitcoin's history, one miner appears to have produced an unusually large share of blocks. In 2013, researcher Sergio Demian Lerner studied patterns in the early blockchain. His analysis attributed roughly 1 million Bitcoin in mining rewards to a dominant pattern that he associated with Satoshi. But Lerner explicitly said he could not be 100% certain that all of those rewards belonged to Satoshi. In 2018, BitMEX research challenged parts of that interpretation. It still found strong evidence of a dominant miner in 2009, but argued that the amount may have been significantly lower, perhaps 600,000 to 700,000 Bitcoin. The honest conclusion is not that Satoshi definitely owns exactly 1 million Bitcoin today. The narrower conclusion is that published analyses attribute somewhere from roughly 600,000 to around 1 million Bitcoin in early mining rewards to a dominant miner widely associated with Satoshi Nakamoto. That makes this miner the leading candidate for the largest plausible individual or closely related entity identified through early chain research. But 3 major uncertainties remain. First, the attribution is not cryptographically proven. A mining pattern is not a signed statement of identity. Second, the amount changes with the methodology. That is why the published estimates differ. And third, the blockchain cannot prove whether the relevant keys still exist or remain accessible. Inactivity alone cannot tell us whether a holder is waiting, unable to spend, or no longer present. For a more directly documented category, look at public companies. Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, reported aggregate holdings of 842,138 Bitcoin as of August 2, 2026, in an SEC Form 8K filed the following day. That is a dated company disclosure, not an address label or social media estimate. Among the disclosed corporate treasuries reviewed for this episode, Strategy is the largest by a wide margin. For comparison, Mara reported 35,577 Bitcoin as of June 30, 2026. The dates matter. These figures are snapshots, not a live scoreboard. Companies can buy, sell, lend, pledge, or otherwise change their holdings. But the category is clear. Strategy's number represents company-reported aggregate Bitcoin holdings, not assets owned by a separate investment fund. Now compare that with an ETF. The iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, better known as IBIT, reported 734,261 Bitcoin as of June 30, 2026. It is easy to say, BlackRock owns all that Bitcoin. It is also wrong. The filing describes the Bitcoin as owned by the trust. Investors own shares representing fractional beneficial interests in the trust's net assets. BlackRock Fund Advisors serves as trustee, while iShares Delaware Trust Sponsor LLC is the sponsor. And the filing names Coinbase Custody as the Bitcoin custodian responsible for safekeeping the trust's Bitcoin. 4 layers. Different roles. The trust owns the Bitcoin. Shareholders hold the economic interest through their shares. The custodian safeguards the asset, and transaction authorization follows institutional custody arrangements. Individual shareholders do not control the custody keys. IBIT Balance is not BlackRock's corporate treasury. It is not Coinbase's beneficial property, and it is not a pool of Bitcoin individually controlled by shareholders. It is Bitcoin held inside a legal investment vehicle for many investors. This brings us to the strongest objection in the entire story. Bitcoin culture has a simple phrase: not your keys, not your coins. If a small number of custodians operate signing systems for large funds, exchanges, and customers, perhaps legal ownership is not what matters most. Perhaps the party able to authorize a transaction is the real holder. This objection is serious. Distributed economic exposure can still depend on concentrated infrastructure. A custody failure, security breach, policy error, or blocked withdrawal can affect many people at once. Whether or not a custodian beneficially owns the Bitcoin, its operational role creates genuine security and access risk. But key control does not erase every other form of ownership. Institutional custody does not necessarily mean one employee has unlimited power over a vault. Authorization can be divided across teams, procedures, and hardware. Custodians can safeguard assets while remaining bound by contractual and legal duties to customers or trusts. The accurate conclusion is not that custody concentration is harmless. It is that custody concentration and ownership concentration are different measurements. Both can be high. Both can create risk, and both deserve scrutiny. Exchanges make the distinction even more important. An exchange may operate large wallet clusters on-chain, but those clusters can include Bitcoin attributable to customers, funds, and other users of the platform. Calling every Bitcoin in an exchange-labeled wallet exchange-owned confuses operational control with beneficial ownership. That does not make the concentration irrelevant. It means we should describe it correctly. Custody and access concentration, not automatically a corporate balance sheet claim. Governments create another version of the same problem. The United States established a strategic Bitcoin reserve by executive order on March 6, 2025. But headlines often jump from a seized wallet to a claim that the government owns a fixed, easily ranked number of Bitcoin. The legal reality is more complicated. Seizure is not the same as final forfeiture. Assets may be subject to legal process, victim return obligations, statutory requirements, or other exclusions. Under the reserve framework, the relevant Bitcoin is finally forfeited Bitcoin that is eligible to be deposited under the policy. The executive order established the structure, but it did not publish a consolidated reserve total. And as of our research cutoff on August 10, 2026, we did not identify an authoritative published total that would let us rank the United States with confidence. And there is one more boundary the blockchain cannot cross: key access. A Bitcoin balance can remain visible on-chain indefinitely, even if its private keys are permanently inaccessible. The ledger records the unspent Bitcoin. It cannot reveal whether the person who once controlled it can still authorize a transaction. That is why no exact total of lost Bitcoin can be proven simply by looking at old, dormant addresses. Dormancy is evidence of non-movement. It is not proof of loss. At the other end of the scale are ordinary holders, people with their own wallets, exchange balances, and fund shares. Across all of those forms, individuals likely remain the largest broad beneficiary class, but there is no clean on-chain number that can measure them exactly. So who owns the most Bitcoin? There is no single honest winner. If we mean the largest plausible single individual or closely related entity, the dominant early miner associated with Satoshi is the leading candidate. Published estimates attribute roughly 600,000 to around 1 million Bitcoin in early mining rewards to that miner, with major uncertainty about identity, amount, and key access. If we mean the largest disclosed corporate treasury in the evidence reviewed, the answer is strategy. 138 Bitcoin as of August 2, 2026. If we mean a major legal investment vehicle, the iShares Bitcoin Trust held 261 Bitcoin as of June 30, 2026. But the trust, its shareholders, its sponsor and trustee, and its custodian occupy different layers of the relationship. And if we shift to operational custody, no authoritative live ranking can be established from address labels alone. Exchanges and institutional custodians can operate very large pools on behalf of many beneficiaries, creating real custody concentration even when they do not beneficially own every Bitcoin they safeguard. The blockchain can show where Bitcoin is. It cannot always tell you whose wealth, whose legal claim, or whose operational risk you are looking at. And owning more Bitcoin does not, by itself, grant the power to rewrite Bitcoin's rules. Ownership, custody, and protocol authority are different things. The next time you see a Bitcoin rich list, ask 4 questions. Who benefits? Who has legal title? Who safeguards the keys? And who can authorize movement? That is the difference between a number on a public ledger and an honest answer. BTCWindow, UK. Built for generational wealth.